Hey everyone, I'm back again. And as promised on Sales Uncharted, I'm always trying to bring someone so unique, so different that we can have a lot of fun. I don't like to bring sales VPs on this call, and I don't like to bring them because they always talk about technique. But there's so much going on in selling right now: mindset, attitude, behavior, and that magical word AI, right? Artificial intelligence. So I bumped into Cindy. And when I was looking at Cindy's background at PwC and the work she does there, I was very intrigued. I said, you know what? Here's an interesting voice. And here we are. We finally have Cindy with us. Cindy, welcome to the show. Take a minute or two. Could you help my readers and listeners? Because the reason why I said readers, Cindy, is because every podcast episode gets converted into a newsletter as well. And then I write about 900 words of what did I get from that conversation with you, as an example, right? So you get the best of both worlds. You get people that have reading skills, they read. Then you have people who have listening skills and like to sit in the car, and I cater to them as well. Cindy, who are you? What problem do you solve? What pain do people bring to you? And how can you help my listeners who are B2B sellers on this call today?
Sure. Well, thank you so much, Deepak, and I really appreciate your energy and your time. And I bring something a bit unique, and I know that people probably think being kind of a hunter is something that's very difficult out there, and those are some skills that are very difficult. And I think now with some of the changing landscape out there, I think it's going to be more interesting with AI and some of the technology that's coming, and what's going to be the interesting balance between what's going to be human and then what is going to be tech enabled. So I think it's going to be very interesting. I've been in this profession, God, I don't want to date myself, but a very, very long time. And I've seen a lot of things change. And I've been around the block for a long time and been in enterprise sales. And I'm still someone that carries a briefcase and that makes cold calls and actually talks to clients every day. And I'm in enterprise sales. And I call myself the sales huntress. So I am a
Yes,
true
Huntress.
hunter. And I really like that, and I do think that that's always important, is to really look at opportunities, to really talk to clients and really know what's important to them and really understand that. But I think there's lots of great opportunity to start to use tech as a key enabler. So I think we're going to get into some of those conversations on what should
Absolutely.
be kind of, I guess, tech enabled, and then what should really be something that you still keep as what I call sacred and something that stays human. And I think one of the key things that you're looking at, and I think everybody's looking at, is what is going to be AI, and are we still going to have jobs out there, right? Are
Oh, so
salespeople going to still have jobs? I'm like,
this,
yes.
Cindy, this is one of those kaboom moments, right? It's like, so I'm an Indian of Indian origin. You go to a party, and the first question people ask me is that, Deepak, is India as poor as they show on TV? And I'm like, looking at me and my plumpness, I'm sure you're wondering that. Most likely not. I says no, but this is the fun with AI, and you're spot on. Artificial intelligence, Cindy, when I first bumped into it 4 years ago, and I don't know if you can relate to this or not, but I initially was like, okay, it's intriguing. It's like a fidget spinner. There's a role for it. I don't know what the role is, but I'm not sure. And I was yawning. Couple of months later, I suddenly started feeling a tingle because the responses, the conversations, the input that I was getting was markedly different from what it was initially. Initially, what was a trinket or a nuisance or something shiny object was suddenly starting to make a lot of sense. And I actually looked back to see if there was anyone else watching the bewilderment on my face. And unfortunately, it was my son sitting behind me, and he is a software engineer. And I said to him, dude, I've been around 30 years and I have no hair. And I can tell you one thing: if this carries on, I think you won't have a job one day. So he looked at me and said to me, okay, what's your point? So it's the point is there's something going on with this thing. Radio didn't scare me. TV didn't scare me because it was before my time anyway, right? Cindy, we're old, but we're not that old, right? Internet didn't scare me. Email didn't scare me. But something about AI scared me because AI now made it very personal. It came into my comfort zone. We are going to talk about job loss. You betcha. You asked it. Now, to my B2B sellers on the call, here's someone who is a practitioner. She used the word huntress. And I can assure you one thing: hunting is one of those, I would say, sports where I was told very early there's a sucker born every minute. But Cindy, if that were true, then selling would be so easy, wouldn't it? Because I don't think you and I be that lucky to find a sucker. It requires method and technique to convince a sucker, irrespective of, right? And unless you're lying or cheating, and that's not where I think our background is. Now, when we talk about you working in this hunter white space side of things, you're with PwC, right? And when people talk PwC, the word complexity, not just of the job you have, but the complexity of navigating and working within PwC is not easy, also, right, Cindy? But at the same time, a lot of people are always going to ask the question: how is AI used by PwC and you in your own life pursuits? If I could push you for an answer on that, I really love to understand how you guys are embedding AI into how you are running after life pursuits and being a huntress. Imagine Huntress with no whip, but with a little gizmo on the side answering all the questions. Talk to me.
So I think, there's lots of opportunity, and I think, if you look at all the different pieces of the process, right? So you look at the sales process, and I think you have to be a really good salesperson in general is very structured, right? So you
Mm.
always think people that are in sales are just fly by night and they don't really have as much of a
Yeah,
process, but the real
yeah.
good ones are people that are very structured. So if you break up the sales process in the front end and you do your prospecting, I think there's lots of opportunity to really use AI in general to actually do research. But I mean, I'll just give you a practical example. If you're looking at like LinkedIn and you're getting just a whole bunch of, information
Yeah.
and you're sourcing information, if you look and you do some, I guess searches through LinkedIn as an example, if you use AI to do that and you use AI to do that and you don't do it personally yourself and you actually go into someone's LinkedIn and you don't see the word courage in building blocks, you miss such an amazing opportunity to say, oh
True
my
story.
God, I just missed that the word courage is in the background of that person's LinkedIn, that there has to be a reason why that person is. And then you read more about the person and it becomes a human part of that. So I think there's such a missed opportunity that if you don't do the research and if you just outsource that to I mean, there's pieces of it and there's additional things that you can get from that. But if you just say, oh, I'm just going to push the easy button and just give AI the opportunity to do that, man, you just don't internalize who
But
that person is.
wait, Cindy, wait, stop. I think we can just cancel this podcast because there's something very unique happened here. Typically, after 30, 40 minutes of back and forth, we finally get to the conclusion that how you use AI and how you adopt AI, but without losing your judgment, you're in the moment. You have actually flipped the coin on me because what you've just done, Cindy, is very amazing. What you've said to the world is this conversation is not about AI 101. This is not AI 102. If you're using AI, Cindy, I'm actually telling you where I am seeing the way we use AI, if I understand you, Cindy, is we use it with the smarts, with a clear understanding that I'm not outsourcing my intelligence to it, and I'm using it as a means to an end, and that end is owned by me. That's what I would call how to use AI and adopt it in a way that one preserves your own use of it, preserve your job, hopefully, because you want to, how do you say this, get augmented by AI, not get replaced by an artificial intelligence. So, Cindy, very interesting reverse answer. We never even built up AI. We went straight to how to use AI the most productive, most efficient way. So, everyone on the call, be warned. This seems to be one of those moments where it's not an AI 101 conversation about shiny objects. It's about some shiny objects are not gold. And here be dragons, guys. Cindy, I like this. We're already off onto uncharted territory. Get it? Uncharted territory. Thank you for that, ma'am. Let's talk about the fact that you do have AI being used, let's say, to make sense of the LinkedIn searches and, of course, scale. You also called it tech and automation a lot in this conversation. And I think that's what people forget. At the end of the day, AI is not it. The mathematics may be above us, but at the end of the day, it's still a technique, a process, a mechanical or an electronic. Something is happening in the background. It's structured. When we talk about live pursuits and the fact that you started off by, there are tons of things happening in the GPM space, clay, this, that. Everyone's literally, in fact, one of the things I would argue, and I'd like to get your take on it, Cindy, that if you are inherently not understanding what AI is being used for, then Cindy, have you seen situations where you've scaled stupidity, where your process has just gone, a stupid, bad process was just automated or AI deployed without thinking and made it worse? And scaled something that could have been hidden with only one or two customers, or maybe make 20 customers get sight of it. Has that happened to you?
Well, I'll give you a perfect example. And I just love examples because people can just say AI in
They're
general,
the yeah.
and people just do an eye roll. Like every time it's like bingo, right? Like in every conversation and every enterprise conversation I have, everybody uses the word AI like every other sentence. And sometimes it's being overused. And I think at this point also, um, we also think that people are more advanced than they really are.
Mm.
And I think clients have a little bit of what I call AI anxiety, right? So they think that they should be further along than they are, and sometimes you just need to just get started, right? So I
Yeah.
think there's opportunity to just get started. And I'll just use my husband as a perfect example. We're in the car and he is just like the king of Google. So he'll just talk into the phone and he'll just
Yeah.
switch something. So I said, you know what? Let's just make the switch to chat gpt at least, right? And there's a million chat gpt options out there, as we all know, right? So you can get to six, right? You can get to
Mm.
six different ones if you really want to. So he has just, and he's a contractor, so he's not even in any sort of tech or professional services or anything like
Right.
that. So he's a great benchmark for someone that really is not tech savvy or tech forward,
Coming in from, yep.
right? Coming in from the outside. So he's asking the basic questions of the basic questions, and he is just completely and utterly gobsmacked about how the basic information that he's asking and the sophistication of the responses he's getting. And
Yes.
then he's leveling down on how clear he can get those responses. So I think there's a lot of old school salespeople, and I'm one of those old school salespeople that
Yeah.
doesn't want
Yeah.
to venture out to uncharted territory, as you were saying,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Because this is
Love it.
uncharted, right? So
Yeah.
this is the webcast, Uncharted, right? So you have to try, right? You have to do things differently. So what I would suggest folks out there is to really try. Like if you want to go and actually do side by side competition, right? So actually say, who is your competition in this particular pursuit? And I'm not, I'm not tough speaking for PwC at all, but just in general, who is your competition in this particular pursuit? And it can do side by sides. I mean, pretty miraculous. You can set up, you can be very sophisticated and set up agents where you can train these
Train
agents.
this. Yeah.
Yes, where you can put in an RFP and you can actually say, this is really what the RFP says. This is our proposal response. This is where we see the gaps. I mean, so sophisticated, so easy. I mean, these are
Here's
things that make it so much easier to even respond.
Cindy. Let's talk about sophistication and ease, right? And my suspicion with AI is that AI makes it too easy sometimes, right? And I've watched it. Now I spoke with and I did a lot of work over 2025 with about a dozen or so rockstar salespeople. I sat with 8 of them, and what blew my mind, Cindy, and I just wanted to get some feedback from you on this one, was that those 8 were exceeding their quota not because of AI, but it's because of how they were using AI, the way they integrated it into their work. One, they were asking it questions which were, I would say, very difficult, very well structured. It was like, I don't know how to say this to you, but they took the ultimate conversation. When we talk about selling and we talk about discovery, we talk about the fact that understand the customer's pain. And if you can solve for that pain, that's how you're going to gain, and so on. So, right. They were actually having a doctor's diagnosis conversation in the form of a prompt. So the prompt
Mm-hmm.
number one was that, hey, ChatGPT, I have a pain in my wrist. ChatGPT says, okay, tell me more about it. That's interesting. In real life, no one says that, tell me more about it, but people jump to answers because they want to cut a conversation short. I know where you are going, Deepak, because of your chain of thoughts. I'm going to give you an answer before you get to it. That's human with AI, and the way that, so these guys are actually building logic and knowledge. And in fact, when I did an interview with all 8 of them, Cindy, something I picked up which blew my mind was that they actually became better from it. They were learning at a rate which was far more than they were learning before, because they were playing devil's advocates. As an example, you said, let's say that you want to bid on an RFP and you put in the name of the competition. What these guys were doing was that they were also giving information around the behavior of them, how the champions react to them, and so on and so on, which you would think is a lot of information to put through a system, right? But then I also realized they were also using the fact that the capabilities allow them to load the transcript of the conversation also. Sunday, Cindy, you realize that AI, which was supposed to be something which is it's pervasive, but it's so amazing the amount of inputs and the type of way that you can interact with it, that I'm just watching sales change dramatically. Now, because of all of this, I'm also seeing some things in which I need to get your opinion on. I really believe that people have become a bit too slow in terms of thinking on their own 2 feet. Let me put this through and ask AI for an email template to use. Is one of what I call low hanging fruits. Now, if you look at salespeople in general, they tend to go very fast, very quick to where anything that they can adopt that can save them time, right? Without making them look like they don't know what they're doing. And I'll give you an example. You take AI and tell AI, give me my positioning strategy, give me the pricing strategy. No salesperson is going to admit to use AI for that. Because the second they admit that, Cindy, they're going to get accused of one reality. I thought you were the highest paid person on the company, and you're telling me that I should give your salary to AI rather? So in sales, Cindy, people that are using AI are also not telling the world what they're doing. So I'm just very curious. When you look around at AI and when you look at salespeople who are adopting it, are they potentially creating their own parallel universe with the way that they're using AI because it's so pervasive? I mean, I personally know salespeople spending 600, $500 a month on a full Claude Pro as well as a Chat GPT. Why? Because they build their own parallel shadow IT system out of AI. Is that good? Is that bad? Is that ugly? Do you have any opinion on that?
I always think it doesn't replace the person, because you have to also, in sales, I always say you have to ask the same question 3 different times and get the answer 3 different times.
3 different
So you
times.
have to
Yeah.
triangulate those. You have to understand the political landscape of your client, because it depends when you ask the question of someone at your client, it depends on context. Is your client's boss in the room when you ask the question? You may get one
That
answer.
is. Yeah.
So it's all about context and about exactly how the question's asked, who's in the room. So I am probably the most annoying person when someone tells me
Yeah.
what they got as the answer when I ask them a question, because I'll have to ask them exactly the context of the answer. So that's where AI doesn't give you that context of the answer.
Of the answer. Yes.
So that's where the
Yes.
problem is. There's not a contextualization, if that's a word, of that. So that's where the political nuances, the emotional intelligence, the the um the way that someone answers the question with a trepidation or something like that. Those
That's
are all the things that you can't
yes.
really quantify, and that's where the humanness comes in. Those rote, like what you were just saying, Deepak, which I think is very interesting. All of those feeders in from AI is one data point. It's a data point. It's not the points, right? It's not all the points. And if you just go down a rat hole with just one AI point, you're not going to win. I'm sorry.
You know what, Cindy, this is beautiful. This is really cool because in one of my debates that I had with another guest, one of the points that I was making, and I think he didn't get it at that point. I hope I'm more eloquent this time and you get it, Cindy, was, you walk into a bar and you see a group of young girls, ladies standing on the side, right? Suddenly the guys start standing up firm because they see opportunity, right? And I think this is what AI is doing to us. AI wows us with some low hanging stuff, fruit. You see something that AI does and you kind of go with the flow. You allow your own judgment to go away. You spoke about judgment in the moment, and it's very, very important. The nuance of when you gave the price, the customer hesitated and leaned back. That nuance is visible to you at that moment. You have prepped using AI, but your judgment that kicks in at that point is what justifies you getting a high salary as a salesperson. So I think that's very powerful. Now, there's something that I want to just check with you. Sellers, when I talk to them, typically give me a very weird, nuanced view of AI, as in previously without AI, I could call maybe 10 people a day work, but now with AI, I can manage to call 20 people a day. When you hear something like that, Cindy, what's the first reaction? Your car? What does that mean?
No, I don't agree with that, because it's the quality of the call, right? So you can use that, and I'll give you a real example. One of the CIOs that I talked to, she said, Cindy, I was so embarrassed. She goes, I did a personal referral of someone, and I put
Mhm.
my neck on the line and did a referral of
Yeah.
a job for someone else. And I stuck my neck out, and the person sent the note to the referral, and it was so obviously an AI driven
Yeah.
note that it made me look so bad. I was like, oh. So people notice, people read and notice. So people can tell when it's an AI driven note. So I think it's really important to know that you're not going to fool people. You're not going to fool people with AI.
Yeah.
So I'll admit I'm an English major. So I'm kind of a strange person in a big four firm. So everybody else is accountants. I'm an English major. So I'm a
Yeah.
square peg in a round hole. But
Understood.
so in a world of AI, it's kind of interesting. I still write my notes. So I'm a little bit odd, even in a world of AI. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there will be some times I use it and I use it in certain areas, but I still think that sales is still about being human and how you make people feel.
You know what's really interesting about this conversation is that you just go back to time and you think about, I had a couple of bosses and they had this thing they used to do at the end of the year. I would actually get a Christmas message or a New Year message written in hand. And I asked my boss one day, you just sent nearly 50 people a handwritten note. That's crazy. Why? His response is one of the responses that I thought about. And he said to me, because people know how difficult it is to write in this day and age.
Oh, yeah.
Therefore, what would have been just a simple appreciation, it becomes a life enhancing situation for them, right? We are so used to seeing humanity's worst that when we actually see humanity's best, we give it far more credence or credibility than it deserves. And he says this is how he differentiates himself as a salesperson by being that guy at the end of the year and like clockwork. So people will say, I've known Alistair for 10 years. Oh my God, I look
Mhm.
forward to his Christmas notes.
Yeah.
Wow, what just happened there? And
Oh,
I think
yeah.
there's power in that, right? There's power in that, Cindy, right?
That's so
Now,
true.
he may track it, he may do something with it, he may
Yeah.
schedule it using AI, but at the end of the day, that originality of putting his pen to paper and writing with his hand is what distinguishes him. And I think it's a powerful message. In an age of AI where everyone's going to go in the path of least resistance, indeed, those who are going to be remembered are going to be remembered not because of AI slop, but because their voice stood out in the midst of AI slop. And people detect that. In fact, I would ask you, Cindy, a simple question. At the rate we are going, Cindy, would you ever be comfortable to actually go on to a support call and then instead of sitting there for 10 minutes, finally say, you know what, could you please get a human to talk to? And it says that'll be $20 per minute. And I bet you're going to say, you know what, give me 5 minutes, please. I'm okay with $100.
Yep.
That's, I think, what's going to happen to us. We're going to get to a point where we're going to inundate it with fake videos, fake this marketing copy. I mean, I had the misfortune, and right now I'm a founder raising funding, right, Cindy? And I went to ChatGPT and I said, ChatGPT, help me position this in 5 different ways because I thought it was a great way of starting off the conversation. What ended up was a 45-minute absolute waste of time. And in the end, the message we got was the message that I thought intuitively I needed to get to. I could have just written it myself. And there's a caution in that, right? And this is where I think we are falling short. In the moment, AI speeds things up for us, Cindy. But when you add up all the time with AI and all the rewriting, I have a feeling that people are going to realize that they're actually spending way too much time on AI and giving it far more credence that they should be. But there is some role for AI, and I'm going to ask a direct question, ma'am. Where do you think AI can outperform humans in selling, at least right now?
Well, I think it really does do a good job by taking a whole bunch of articles and summarizing things. So anything
Yeah,
that really takes a lot of content and really does curate it into something that's really consumable in a very
yeah,
quick speed. Like if I have a meeting that came up on the schedule very quickly and I need to just curate something very fast, I think that's a great
that's a
application to
great,
do
yeah,
that. And it's something that's already written and you just need some really good nuggets and it can just take that and really, curate that quickly. I think that's a great application for it. I do agree that it can take some background information and do a good job, but I think that it doesn't take away from you doing some of the other research as well. So I think it's
yeah.
just an added aid, not just the only aid.
Yes, I would agree with you. Now, if I would ask you a direct question in terms of what you're looking at, let's assume for a second, let's focus on the top 25 or 20% of salespeople for a second, Cindy, right?
Yep.
And when you look at their behavior and their attitude and their technique, and you see how they use AI, what have you noticed AI has helped them in their persuasion and their selling the most? The most.
I think it gives you access to information very quickly. Like I
Mm,
had to get on a
mm.
conversation. I mean, this is real time where we had to get to a down select of one, right? And I knew
Right.
the other competitor. I knew the other competitor. So I just said, let's just do a quick side by side. If there was any point that I may have missed, right? And there was one nugget that I was like, oh man, I really could just nail
Could
that
just,
one.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So it's just one of those things where and I'm a creature of structure. So I really think that I can always go to a sales training and learn something, right?
Yes.
Or reinforce something. So I think that that's always the person, because a really good salesperson is always learning and always reinforcing all
Very important.
the
Absolutely.
basics are always the basics in sales. And
Yep.
I'm always like, even like I have a pad right next to me all the time, and I'm always writing down things because I don't forget, right? So,
Bravo.
so I think
Bravo.
it's really important because like I don't take things for granted. And I think it's important to hit some of your points that you might miss. So I
Miss.
think that's where AI helps, is just to say, oh my God, yes, that's the one point I maybe would have missed. So those are the compliments of that. So you have like an instant sales manager right there with you.
Wait. Oh, you just slipped something in there beautifully, Cindy. Cindy, this is actually a very important point you made. I really want to call attention out to my B2B sellers listening right now. You have a sales manager on tap. And this is one of the reasons why you have all this work going on right now on coaching, AI led coaching, AI sales, even on a call with the customer, the AI is
Mhm.
actually listening, trying to tell you what to say, what
Right.
not to say, stuff like that. That's amazing. And I get that it's happening. But what is also very interesting is that, and we could put, and I'm going to touch upon that because you just raised it. We are going to talk about sales coaching in the age of AI. I'm going to throw that in. But at this point, I just want to pivot on something that you wrote, which I read, and I want to give you an opportunity. You recently wrote about how you make people feel is the new currency. Tell me a
Yep.
bit more. I'd love to unpack how AI can replicate that if it ever can. What would you say to that?
I think that's the AI proofing of a sales role. Like, I think it's really interesting. And I do a lot of reading. So I'm a constant reader of kind of what's happening in the profession of sales and then what's happening in AI. And I do think that all the emotional intelligence, all the layering of the nuances of sales is something that really can't be replaced by AI. So I think
Yes.
you have to really be in touch with that. And I also think that how you truly make people feel trusted. And like I trust you, Deepak. I mean,
Mm.
I truly trust you already. So so I think
Yes.
it's just
It's
how
a
you make someone feel, right? So
how
I
you make
think
someone feel.
right. So
Absolutely.
I would give you a hug now. So I would feel like I
It's
can hug you. So
correct.
I think that those are the things that are intrinsic on how you make someone feel, how
Correct.
comfortable you make someone feel. You kind of know it. You know when you make a connection with someone. And that's something that AI can't really help you do. It can give you some
It
hints. It might be able to give you some credibility when it comes to knowledge, maybe around that will lead you to trust, right? But those are things, and there's nuances on social graces, right? Still those basic
oh
social graces
yes.
that your mom taught you, right? Like
Correct.
dressing for success. Like still, like I still, we have kids that are in their 20s, right? And I'm sure you have a lot of people that
I
are coming like
yeah.
overdress. Like you can't miss if you're wearing a blazer or you're wearing a scarf with a really nice, blouse or whatever. So don't look
Yep.
like you rolled out of bed. So those are things that AI doesn't teach you, right? So
No,
those are the things that
you're
you
right.
need to know, right? So I think that
It's
those are the things.
but Cindy, this is really powerful because I think there's this misnomer. If I take all of my problems to AI can solve it for me. And I think this is again discernment that has to come in. When and how to. So let's now put you on the spot here. Have you ever used AI and you actually said, oh wow, this AI did such a great job that it's actually changed the direction of this life pursuit that I'm after? All credit to the AI. Have you ever had that
You know,
situation?
you know, I have to say it did in a recent instance. We had an opportunity to, and it was very technology driven, like really tech savvy and tech focused and
Focused,
speeds
yeah.
and feeds, and it was more of that side by side. So I think when it's really that speeds and feed oriented, then I think it can change things if you're doing something very side by side in that respect.
In that respect, yes. And this is interesting. You do admit to AI helping you, but you also made it very clear that whatever advantage you got from it was still in your control because I'm sensing that. And the outcome was a positive one because I think you use AI the right way and in the positive way to get that outcome. So it's one of those things, it's not just it happened by chance. Therefore, you're like, wow, AI was smarter than me. I think it's that I was using AI smartly and I actually used it in a way that allowed it to shine and help us make that deal.
But you have to
Every
have the conditions for success. And you
conditions for
also have
success.
to
Yes.
invest in the relationships when the relationships don't necessarily matter, you know?
Yes. You know,
So so that's the key. And investing in relationships are not AI driven either. So there you
no, they may. Here's the funny thing: they appear to be, and I'll tell you why I say that. Because people throw stats at me as follows: I use AI in 67% of my processes because someone can put down on a flow chart and then tell you I use AI here, AI here, AI here, and that's 67%. Two-thirds of my process is automated. Therefore, I use AI 67% of the time. And I said, hold on, I live under the same roof with the same woman for the last 30 years, but there are 50% of people in my situation who have divorced by then 5 times or 4 times. Why? And it's again that same nuance that people miss. And it's always very intriguing for me to see that. I'm going to flip the question the other way around. Have you ever had a situation where you said, wait a minute, I hear you, AI, but that is such a bad idea. I'm not deploying that. Did it your way and you got the result that you wanted? And did that make you feel that AI is wrong, or did that just make you know what to use AI for?
Well, I think you also, and I'll go back to my husband in the car showing him
Yeah.
ChatGPT, and we asked ChatGPT who the president of the United States was, and they told us the wrong president. So, I mean, I'm just letting you know
There
that,
you go.
yeah.
There you go.
So I mean, you have to also execute common sense around some of the things you do ask, and make sure you check and balance the things that you do ask as well. So you can't just arbitrarily think that everything that ChatGPT says is gospel. So I think it's very
So,
important.
Cindy, this is again something that just made me lean forward. Let me tell you why. Cindy, I had this conversation with a sales rep that I was coaching, and he said to me, I hear you. You're a Sandler guy. You use the pain funnel conversation a lot. But to me, it's just wrong." I said, "What's wrong?" He said, "The fact that you're forcing me to ask pain questions." I said, "No, wait, you misunderstood. We're not forcing you. We're simply saying to you that pain discovery is a multi-layered process."
Mhm.
He said to me, "Yeah, but the problem is that every time I use a methodology, Deepak, I get into trouble." And I says, "What does that mean?" He said, "What it means is that my customers get exasperated with me at question 5 and start telling me, you're wasting our time. Don't you know the answers to these questions anyway?" So my response to him was as follows: you know what? That's exactly the problem. You're still using AI in a certain way. Now I'm going to switch the metaphor. And you're getting a different result, but you're not stopping to ask yourself as to what is it that you're doing at that point, but you're blaming AI for it. In discovery, if your customer is exhausted with the fifth question, that tells me that the questions you asked, you were asking based on quantity, not quality. You
Right.
went down a rabbit hole, and that's why you've exasperated the customer. And two, you're the sales guy. If question 4 is getting a body response, then why are you asking question 5 and question 6? Oh,
Right.
because the pain funnel says that I must. No,
No. Uh,
no.
no.
And this is the difference between novice AI users and the serious
No.
professionals who use AI. There's a world
Right.
of difference there. Now, ma'am, I really enjoying this because we're getting a lot of practical conversations going on, right?
Mhm.
Now, let's go back to your Huntress mode, right? When you are doing an early stage opportunity creation, what's the most creative way that you use AI that you say, you know what, guys, if you haven't, girls, if you haven't done this, do this, gals, this is going to be amazing. What would that tip be?
I mean, I think I am a person who really feels like I get to know the person before I even reach out to them.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm their friend even before I even reach out to them.
And this is back to the courage on the wall comment, right?
Yes.
Now, here's indeed something that I want to check with you though. It's a great answer, but look, let's be honest here also. It's like one of those forced conversations where my entire life I've never understood golf as a sport, and I think I was had this pained expression on my face when I used to go for very expensive golf classes because they told me every enterprise sales guy's got to play golf. That's where all the big bucks are. I'm like, okay. I ended up whacking that ball so hard and so frustrated to learn that in the driving range, I actually tore my rotator cuff while doing a golf swing. That
Hmm.
was the end of my golfing, whatever
Hmm.
tenacity that I was building up. But the point that I was trying to make there with that is that I hurt myself in the process. I'm a sales guy who's been working on behavior. And when I walk in and I see someone on says, there's a picture of this person playing golf. And now I don't like golf. I've tried it, failed at it, but now I'm sitting there for 20 minutes trying to build a relationship based on golf. And I think this is the problem with AI. AI will find facts and information about an individual, drown you with it, but you need to actually understand, is it of any relevance? It's like forcing a conversation on golf when you don't know much about it, but because you see that you're trying to create a commonality and force that conversation. AI has a habit of throwing what I call these weird things into the mix. So as an example, Cindy, this blew my mind, and I don't know what your reaction to this is. That one of the things you mentioned was that I like to do a little research about the guy, right? So I was having this conversation, and someone said to me, I was being sold to, Cindy. Okay, I was being sold to, and the guy said to me, so I believe that you are this type. This is what you really. And I said, wait, how do you believe? Where do you know that from? I'm just curious. From one seller to another seller, help me understand this. And he said to me that they actually have a tool that they've developed that analyzes people's LinkedIn profiles. And I said to him, congratulations. I said, you do know that my LinkedIn profile was based upon 5 or 6 rounds with Claude and my good friends to ask them. And they gave me a very mechanical explanation of which resonate the most, not what makes you look great, but what resonates the most.
Right.
Because of that, my friend, you're trying to analyze my behavior and my writing style, and you're using for information and for data, which has gone through multiple filters. He sat there looking at me and says to me, oh my gosh, did you know, Deepak, we've just spent 200,000 bucks on actually developing this as a standalone application and you just destroyed it in 1 minute? I said, I'm not destroying anything. I'm simply telling you that you are building judgment based on people's writing on products and tools where AI slop is everywhere, right, Cindy?
Right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So now, Cindy, let's keep going here.
Yeah. No, no, no.
Cindy,
And we can have a whole philosophical conversation around LinkedIn. I mean, we can have a whole
oh
hour
yes, we
conversation
can.
around that.
Absolutely.
But I'm just using LinkedIn as just a, you know, kind of generic way
It's and
of
it's a
looking
common
at it.
metaphor, right?
Right.
Because
Right.
LinkedIn
Yeah.
is one of those tools that I would say every salesperson has to use. It's that quick. It's not an arrow in the quiver anymore. It's literally the quiver nowadays, right? LinkedIn is a place where you need to start, and that's a great place to be. Now, let's
But I
talk
think,
about
yeah, but I
the.
think it's also looking just in general at articles they've written, looking at YouTube, looking at Facebook, looking at their social media, looking at all
It's
different areas. Right. It's
what
not,
they are thinking, right, Cindy?
right.
It's you're it's not how they write, it's what they write about. And I think that's the nuance I want people to understand. How do you read between the lines also and then tease into it very quickly? So that's one of the reasons why my entire chain of thought with you in this conversation is dramatically changing every 2 minutes because we unearth something unique, and I decide to go down a certain rabbit hole or path, right? I'm going to throw something at you. I want to get your feel for this, right? What type of seller is at risk in the AI era?
I think the lazy seller is someone who's
but,
lazy.
but Cindy, that's not right. That's been true for the last 50 years.
No, but
Lazy.
you know what? There
Tell me
are
more. Tell me
very
more.
lazy sellers. No, there
Mm,
is, because really for you to be very good at your craft and for someone who's been in it for as long as probably we have, you
mm,
have to be really good at it and you have to
yeah.
really do it as a craft. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm very proud of my profession. When I
Yeah.
first got into sales, people thought I was going to sell brushes down the street. My family was like, "Why did you go to college to become a salesperson?" Right,
Boom. Yes.
right. So
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 true.
now you can actually get a degree in sales, which I think is really amazing. I think it's a great thing. So it's really a professional career that you choose. So I think it's really morphed into such a great career. But I do think that, I think there's some really great opportunity for a lot of growth, etc. But I think that to use AI,
Yeah.
I think that you could get very lazy and miss a lot of really important opportunities if you really rely on AI and AI only
So
to
this
do
is
things.
Cindy, this is a really interesting response because I think what you've done here is that you have actually not thrown AI under the bus. You've actually thrown a very human element of human beings, which is if you are inherently going to be lazy, and let's park AI for 1 second. Let's go back 25 years ago. There's no AI, there's no machine learning, there's no pricing analytics. There's a lazy salesperson, by definition, someone that is not structured, as you called it earlier, right? You spoke about structure, which is very powerful because a lot of people tell me, Deepak, why is it that I've got the right technique, but I can't get through? I'm like, you can't get through because you're not doing the right behaviors. Every
Yep,
day you need to call 30 people. Every day you need
yep,
to grit your teeth and say, oh God, I lost another deal. But guess what? Go take the dog for a walk, kick a few squirrels, come back, man. You got to
yep.
come back. It's your recovery which is what's going to differentiate you. Cindy, this is really interesting. A lazy salesperson, look, sales is one of those areas where we take a lot of pressure. Successful salespeople have intense pressure. We know that. We also know that 35% of enterprise salespeople will leave enterprise sales by the age of 35. And most of them leave because one, they don't have the discipline or the courage to invest time in themselves. Number one, Cindy. And number two, they actually don't know how to handle the mental resilience element of sales that you need to have. Sometimes getting a premium salary of 20-25% compared to other jobs is not worth it because of the stress involved. And this is
Mhm.
a very human element to it. When you give me an answer where we talk about laziness, I respect what you're saying. What you're saying is that if you are a lazy salesperson, then most likely AI is going to just expose that laziness because you're going to over rely on it. And
Yep.
when you over rely on something which is really successful only because of your judgment, then all you've done is taken your latent defect of being like that and just exposed it, but under the name of AI. I like that. What type of salesperson then becomes unstoppable with AI? How would you answer that question then, Cindy?
You know, I really think what makes a great salesperson is resilience and being very scrappy and being
Mm.
resourceful to always find a way. And and I don't ever, I'm not on the roller coaster ride. Everything to me is a straight line. Like I'm not up on the peaks and valleys.
You,
So I don't, so I think the resilience of me being in this career for as long as I have, and I'm not going to date myself because I'm not going to tell you how old I am. I'm not
no.
going to do it, Deepak. But anyway, but I definitely have seen a lot, and I think that, I mean, I can give you so many great examples, but I do think that resilience is really key in this game,
Hmm.
and to be able to balance all of it. And it shouldn't be stress, it should be fun, because you know what I always look at? I look at how I really help clients solve the most important problems that they have. And my best question, so I'm going to give you, I'll give you the best question I ask. So, and this is worth money. Okay. Are
Kaching,
you going to sit
kaching. Go ahead,
down?
ma'am.
Are you sitting down?
I can stand up, then sit down. You want me to pass out? I'll do that as well. Whatever, but just give this nugget to me, Cindy. You had me at hello. Now you've hooked me. Reel him in. Reel him in. Tell me.
What do you have to get right? Not what
There's
keeps
so
you up
much.
at night,
No.
not any of that.
What do you have to
You have
get
to
right?
get right.
That is, what's really interesting about that question? I like it because it can end in so many ways. What do you need to get right to get you out of this pain? What do you need to get right to get that promotion that you want? What do you need to get right that differentiates your company from others? Wow, the possibilities are powerful with that type
It
of
is
framing.
the best question, and it has been the question that what do you have to get right tells you everything. And if
Yes.
you really listen to the answer, it is
It,
the most powerful question you can ask.
yes, I would agree with that. In fact, I can tell you right now, I would take that and put it on a t-shirt right now. This, and you could call it the Spritzer quote, something like that. It'll be lots of fun.
The sales huntress.
Sales Huntress. Kachak. Ma'am, you just actually took the title of this discussion. And I had actually thought that when I was putting this together, Cindy and I looked at your profile, the title for this was AI can see around corners, but can it read the room? And I think that this conversation has really got that out quite aggressively. I literally got from you a sales nugget at the end, right? And I love that question. I think it's very powerful. And I think there's always a very nuance that you can create from it. And if I look at the best salespeople, they actually have a technique, and the technique is one of wash, rinse, repeat structure. Don't create new stuff. There are some things that have worked for you, double down on them. Now, ma'am, I'm going to throw something at you. We started off this conversation with we alluded to it, but let's ask: will AI take a salesperson job, or will the seller using AI take his colleague's job? What is your bias?
I truly don't think that AI will take a salesperson's job. I think we have a job that is so unique, because we are the people that interface with other people, and we have to help solve people's problems, and we also have to help people retain their jobs. We have to help people nuance in a political environment that they live in. We have
Yeah,
to
that's
help
it.
them. I mean, there's so many things that a salesperson has to work within. We have to work within the environments that we have to help them be an advocate, even within our companies that we have to navigate
Correct.
in.
You have
We
to,
have to
yes.
navigate within their companies, within our companies. There's so many different roles that a sales, like a really strong salesperson, a professional
Ha,
salesperson does. I mean,
yep.
I am the chief bottle washer. I will do whatever it takes to get the job done. And I actually will ask, how are we going to get this to happen? I mean, what do we have to do to make this happen? And I think, and that's another great question. How do we do this together? And I think that that's really where you build trust with your clients. It's how do you collaborate with them? Because there's going to be things that the client is going to have to do for you and that you're going to have to do for the client. And how do you bring those two things together? So you're the person that really is the mediator between both organizations.
Both organizations, yes.
And then you're going to bring the commercials together, the solution together. I mean, you're bringing all these things together and the sophistication of all those things. I mean, that's not easy. And then you're going to ask those really big questions because you don't want to be the person who brings in 250 red wagons, because that is a bad thing. You want to bring in the 1 or 2 wagons that bring the solution together.
Wait, stop. Cindy, I brought you to talk about AI, and I think along the way, we actually got, I would say, a great amount of nuggets, some excellent intellectual property that you've given away. Appreciate that. I will proudly show you the picture and snapshot of the $1 million I'm going to make from all the t-shirts I'm going to publish, the Spritzer line.
I hope so.
Ma'am, as we start wrapping up, this is what's been hitting me as I listen to you, right? AI is great, but you control it. AI expands persuasion and preparation, great, but you still own persuasion. Judgment is actually premium, has always been premium, and even with AI remains premium. And you need to have that right perspective to it. You can't outsource judgment, you need to retain it. Emotional intelligence is not just a differentiator. It's actually now a really smart soft skill that you need to have, especially in the age of AI. There's a lot that's going on over there. Cindy, how can people reach you? Where do people find you? And what's the best way to reach out to you?
Sure. I think the best way is probably LinkedIn. Just send me a LinkedIn note. I mean,
Cindy, and you will respond.
Yeah, I'm really responsive. And I think that that's the best way to interact. And then, I mean, we can definitely get on a conversation. I'm really happy. I mean, I'm in the stage in my life that I'm in the give back stage. So I'm very happy to help.
I respect that.
And in a sophisticated sales environment, if you guys have some opportunities where you need some help or you have a complex sales opportunity that you just want to phone a friend or whatever, I'll be happy to be that phone a friend to give you some advice. I think there's great opportunity. I think now, with this age of, there's very few sales leaders these days. I mean, it's hard to find them, so everyone's just always asking for some helpful advice, some good advice. So I'll be happy to help there.
So it's really interesting, Cindy. So I was tempted to say that, well, folks, that's it. That's a wrap. Thank you for being here with us, Cindy. But you know what? There's a question that I asked you earlier, and I said, let's peg it. And you, for some reason, brought it in nicely. We brought back sales leadership into it. In the age of AI, as AI records all these transcripts, conversations, waxes lyrical, gives you guidance and stuff like that, where do you see sales coaching going ahead with AI? Because you said earlier, Cindy, can you imagine, Deepak, AI is like a sales manager on tap? And that just made me hesitate. On one end, I'm excited about it, but I'm also very nervous about it because, again, the same nuance that you had dealing with a customer where judgment is yours, so would I think your relationship with your manager is also sacrosanct, right? And learning from that manager. How would you position it now, knowing this entire conversation? What is it that AI brings to a sales manager when he's coaching? And what is it that AI is a threat to a sales manager as he's coaching? If we could close on that, I would really appreciate your nugget and wisdom on that.
I think sales management, there's actually a couple types of sales managers, right? There's people that are more operational sales leadership that are
hands-on,
that are reporting the news, or they're people making the news, right? So there's a lot of people that are wanting to know what you're doing, what are you doing, what are you doing, or they're people helping you make the news. So those are two distinguishing factors. So I'm going to say that a lot of people are just there to report the news instead of make news. I'm a maker. Yeah. I'm the making of the news. So
yes,
I'm that person. So the problem is there's not a lot of making of news. There's so much more reporting news. So we need to change that mindset and get people more making news. And some of that is more sales instincts. And some of that is just I hate to say it, just pure making some mistakes. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes
Y-
you just have to you learn from some mistakes, that you
Yeah.
made along the
I
way.
think, I mean, Cindy, you did raise an earlier point, right? When you spoke about learning from your mistakes, because failure is also just a data point, right? And you have to get some failure because that's when the richness of success is revealed. And as my wife, my mom used to tell me, I've been eternally battling with my weight, as an example, right, Cindy? And my mom always tells me one thing: the reason you eternally battle with your weight is because, Deepak, you are a guy that is actually comfortable in the way you look and feel. It's when you react to the universe because of certain feedback given to you that you're like, oh, no, I decided to lose weight. But then you realize that you're okay, happy with your weight. She says, you need to get to a point where you're unhappy with it to do something about it. And unfortunately, Cindy, I'm still waiting for that moment. But anyway, this was a great conversation, Cindy. And I cannot express my gratitude because I think within the first 5 minutes, you actually changed the entire context of this conversation. We came on board here to talk about AI and its relevance. And I think what we ended up is AI is there, it's relevant, it's established. Don't debate that. What you need to debate now is how do you, the human being, maintain your relevance, your resilience in this AI onslaught and do it in such a way that we can actually keep talking about the pride of being part of a noble profession. We don't sell, we serve to solve problems. And I think, Cindy, that's the best way I'd like to close this conversation. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's been
Thanks,
really
Cindy.
wonderful.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Take care.